Well, seeing that we have a few participants, which is great news, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, and thank you again for inviting us to present the South Lane County Park Improvements Project at tonight's Crest Community Association meeting. As we begin, we wanted to go over some tech housekeeping about this presentation and how the Zoom meeting works. Participants are muted during the presentation, so there will only be one speaker at a time, but there will be Q&A at the end. So we ask that you submit your questions and comments through the Q&A feature at the top of your Zoom screen here, if you can see that, as indicated by the blue arrow. And for those of you connected by a mobile device, you can use the same Q&A feature shown down here at the bottom of your screen. And also, as we get started, we want to let you know who's going to be speaking tonight. My name is Nick Farracone. I'm a park project manager in the Parks and Recreation Department at the County of San Diego, and I'm the manager assigned to this project.
I'm Anna Perlant. I'm an environmental planner as well as a wildlife biologist in the Resource Management Division of Parks and Rec.
Hi everyone, my name is Joanna Solomon. I'm a region manager with the Operations Division, and I oversee the maintenance and operations of park and recreation facilities in this area.
Good evening. My name is Jessica Geisler. I am the Marketing and Public Outreach Manager for County Parks. I oversee our web and social channels, special events, and all media relations.
Good evening. My name is Emily Hubbard. I'm Senior Park Project Manager for the South team, and I'm working with Nick on the implementation of these improvement projects.
So the purpose of this meeting is to find out from you, the Crest community and visitors to South Lane County Park, what kind of improvements you might like to see, improvements or additions you might like to see at this park. The meeting is designed to gauge your opinions and collect feedback. We've also developed a survey where you can record your recommendations. It's been posted online. I believe that some of you will have already responded to the survey, which is great news. But it's still online and will be for another week, so that anyone who can't join us tonight will still have the opportunity to participate in the park planning process. With your input, both live tonight and through the survey, we'll compose a plan for the park that reflects those preferences, your preferences. Our second milestone comes from identifying what we can do in the short term and the long term, based on the resources we have available and what's feasible on the site. Through this process, we'll be able to formalize our park improvement project plan. So some background on the park. Some of you will know this very well. The South Lane County Park is, of course, located in Crest, which falls in the County Supervisorial District number 2. And is part of the Crest Granite Hills Harbison Canyon Community Planning Area. It was the community, maybe some of you, who helped to drive the acquisition of the land where this park has been built. A small group of residents wrote a letter to the county in 1974 to establish public interest in this property, but no funding was available at that time. 5 years later, after a series of hearings, the county acquired the park. It was designated as undeveloped. A community-based group called the Equestrians, a horse riding group, drove the initial improvements to the property, and some of those are still there today. Sadly, in 2003, wildfires tore through the area, heavily impacting the property. This image here on the left is an aerial shot from 2004, and you can see the dense canopy that was there at that time. Fire damage led to the removal of many of those trees that at one point had provided such great shade on the north and east sides of the property. So this is a more current aerial, and you can see there's very little tree canopy coverage on the east side or even across the north. But just to orient ourselves a little bit before we look more closely, the park is bounded by the Crest School to the north, residential on the east and west, and South Lane to the south. As for existing conditions in the park now, starting from the upper left and going clockwise, The northwest corner is near the school and the library, where there's also a secondary access to the park. It's a somewhat shaded area. There's an access road across the northern boundary between the school and the park, and drainage crosses here into the park. As a result of that flow, the upper central portion of the park is a drainage and runoff area, which is often wet. The main feature on the east side is a very nice, well-established trail which runs north-south. That's here. And that takes us to the southwest corner, where improvements have been made. The main improvements are the access off the main road, entry and roundabout parking area, some picnic tables placed under a shade tree, and trails leading to the main horse ring and also that trail on the east side. This area also has a hitching post, a kiosk, and it's generally used for parking and staging for equestrians and other park users. There are two other main built features of the park, the main horse ring and the small horse ring. There's some bench seating under some slight tree shade on the northeast side of the small ring, and also some benches to the southwest of the main horse ring. But as we move away from existing conditions and go back into park planning process, I do want to note that we received a number of inquiries about trees which had been marked there on the site. And we, through Linda's help and the help of others, we distributed a response. Our survey process, our survey crew did mark those trees as part of taking a complete inventory of the site, so we know exactly what existing conditions are. They were not marked for removal. No trees are planned for removal. We have no plan for this park as it is right now. This is the introduction of the park planning process, and that's where we are. But we did want to note that we were aware of those inquiries. It was a bit different for them to mark those trees in this way, but in a sense, it was part of getting a very complete survey of the site. So we're happy with the survey that we got, even though the marks created some temporary confusion. So the process to make improvements to the park, to make a park improvement plan, will be shared via 3 public meetings. Public meeting 1, first public meeting, and our presentation tonight together are meant to introduce the community to the project and to invite you to provide input on potential improvements or additions. The survey to provide input has been open since April, and will be open for 1 more week from tonight. We encourage you to share feedback here and through the survey. The next public meeting will take place sometime in June, This is when we'll come back with an initial conceptual design based on your preferences. You'll have the chance to review the plan at this meeting and the alternatives, and provide feedback and design direction to the design team. The 3rd meeting, tentatively slated for August, is where we will present a revised plan, which will again be based on your input and your design direction and your feedback. And then at that time, we'll share a timeline for moving forward, which will include construction and estimated completion. And as we consider making improvements or additions, we want to look at the best opportunity areas for making improvements, as well as identify any environmental constraints. On the left is the same aerial map that we looked at earlier. On the right is a map which shows some habitat and natural features. In general terms, we can do work in the areas that are shaded in brown, here on the right side. The areas that are in gray are already built, but could potentially get some improvements, for example, the arenas, and also our parking area. The blue lines in the center and north central areas of the image represent drainage or water flow and will be avoided. The light green color is eucalyptus woodland, which means we can potentially do work in those areas if we don't need too much space or make too great an impact on those trees. What's not shown on this map are cultural resources. We can't show cultural resources for confidentiality reasons, but I would like to share that we always strive to balance recreation opportunity with our efforts to protect and preserve our land, native habitats, trees, and valuable cultural resources. So that takes us back to the big question we asked at the beginning. What improvements would you like to see at South Lane County Park? Would you like to add more of what's there now, or to build on what's there now? Should something be removed, replaced, or upgraded? Or would you really like to see something totally new added? On the right is a glimpse of our survey, which provides a comprehensive list of options to choose from. And of course, we have follow-up questions, open-ended questions, which ask you to write something in if your preferences aren't listed. And we have some options here to show you tonight too. For example, could be as simple as adding more shade trees to the site and shaded seating, trees along trails, trees for shaded group picnic areas, and or occasional seating along trails. We can also look at children's play areas. And this is a newer style of playground which has been built at many of our park locations, nature play. These features and structures are made of all natural materials to teach kids about the environment and to blend in well with the local environment. There could be informative and educational signage about natural features and habitat, or even a viewing platform. Bike features can be added to existing trails or to new trail sections. You might even be interested in more active recreation opportunities or amenities like a pickleball court or basketball courts. Or your preference could be to improve existing equestrian facilities or add something simple like horseshoe pits. So we've taken a look at a few options, and now this is the part about getting input. We begin the process by asking you to take our survey if you haven't already, which is online and again, still live. The links are here. We'll add them in the chat, and they're already on our website, the park page at sdparks.org. That we extended the life of the survey, which will be open for another week from tonight until May 27th. And once we have your input, we will start to create a park design based on your preferences, which you will see and review in public meeting number 2. Now at this time, we'd like to go ahead and open things up for Q&A. And to make sure we get a full account of all questions asked, we'd like you to please type them into the Q&A panel. Our host, Jessica Geisler, will lead this section to ensure we don't miss anything. Jessica, if you could come on in.
Sure, thanks so much, Nick. We do have quite a few questions already in here, so we'll start at the top. The first question is from Dennis. He's asking, before construction begins, will you install proper tree protections around those existing trees?
Tree protection is a common part of, the answer is yes, and we require tree protection notes on our construction plans, and that's a typical step in construction, that's right.
All right, great, thank you. Another question from Dennis here, will you create substantial stone drainage channels for the existing springs and runoff from the school fields?
If that's the direction we receive from the community, that could be a feature that can be added to the overall park master plan. Keep in mind that we're taking in everything that the community tells us which is important. We'll balance that out into a couple different plan alternatives and present that to you. And if you guys say that that's something that you'd like to see happen, then we'll say, okay, we can incorporate that in the plan. It can maybe happen in the near term, or that might be a more long-term item that might require additional study or review. But that could be something. Dennis, if you haven't already, please add your desires by responding to the survey.
Great, he had another comment here about a 6-foot wide walking trail that would be paved, so elderly and folks with strollers would have a chance to, walk the perimeter of the park. So same comment as what Nick said. I think definitely put that in your survey response, and we'll add that to the list of possibilities for the park property. All right. Let's see, we have a question from Candy. Have you been able to research the Community Wildfire Protection Plan, which the county signed off on identifying the park as a secondary evacuation site? Are you going to be able to work with the community on identifying the sites of water lines already placed in the park? This may be more of an operational question for Joe, but I will open it up to either Joe or Nick.
So I did. Hi, Candy. It's nice to have you here again. And I know we traded a couple phone calls, and I realize you're part of the board here too. So thank you for inviting us and for having us. I don't have an answer yet on the evacuation thing. That is part of my list. I did receive your email. And by the way, for those of you who have sent emails, we have those cataloged as well, and those are also part of public input. So thank you for everybody's input, however you send it. We're aware of some of the water line that exists at the park, but we need to find a little bit more. Joe, do you have anything more about what Jeff Sabilo has found for us, or is that something we're still looking at?
No, that's something we're still looking at, and considering that there's so much history kind of behind this facility in itself, I know that there's been comments that some of the community members might be contributing to the watering at the site. So I think next steps would probably be to engage those community members and do a site visit and just touch base and try to get as much information from them so we can come back with a comprehensive understanding of what exists there.
And that's part of what we were doing there. We had the design team out with us. Actually got to meet 2 more residents out there last Friday. And part of what we were doing, we're locating water meters and hose bibs and some of the existing spigots. So we're continuing that process. So thank you, Candy.
I have a comment on here from Annie, and this is probably we're sharing with the whole team here. Annie's asking, she's saying that she thought the meeting was for the results of the survey and for planning, that it's been a repeat of the first meeting. You're 100% correct. This is a repeat of that first meeting. Some of the feedback we got from residents who attended told us that not everybody could attend or was aware of the meeting taking place. So we reached out to the community, and it sounded like hosting a second informational session would be helpful to engage more residents. So that's what this is here, but we are still pulling survey data, and the next meeting we host after this will actually provide you with information that we received. Okay, so Marty is asking, will you improve the arena and round pen for the horse folks?
I know that there's something specific on the survey for equestrian facilities. So if you haven't already, Marty, you can provide input there. You can also email me. My email is here in this presentation and also on the parks webpage at sdparks.org. That absolutely can be something. It's a matter of what the community tells us is a priority to them. So that's absolutely on the table.
All right, we have a couple more comments from Candy here. They say that they can show you where the electrical is as well as the water line. So there we go, connecting with the community, getting all those resources mapped out. So thank you in advance for that information. Please touch base with Nick, and he can definitely take things to the next level. All right, David's asking, is there any chance of possibly eradicating the black mustard that is ravaging the park? That is an excellent question. We do have invasive species at times in our parks, and we do what we can to try to control them. Spring has been a little bit tough, of course. Joe might be able to provide some general information about, park maintenance from an operational standpoint.
Sure, yeah. The main focus at that location is maintaining the fire breaks that exist there. That can be challenging at times because there's a lot to get done, and sometimes our staff is tending to other locations as well. So we chip away at that throughout the year and try to get that as cleared up as possible. As far as eradicating this particular species, we can definitely engage with our agricultural biologist on this and touch base with him and see if there's a plan we could put in place to start maybe removing that. And we would also engage our resource management folks to ensure that we're doing it safely and that we're not going to be affecting any other kind of natural habitat through those activities. But that's something that we can definitely look into.
Great, thanks, Joe. All right, Dennis has a few more questions here. He's asking if we will regrade the entire park so mowing can be done efficiently with a larger mower and then reseed with native grasses. He has another grass-related question, and that's, will you maintain a 4-foot mowed grass bordering on either side of the paved path to see if people can notice snakes while they're walking across? So it's kind of a 2-part question here. I think the first one, it might be helpful, Anna, to talk a little bit about park properties and when we survey the environment and notice what's on site, kind of next steps.
So we have completed an environmental survey of the entire site, and so From that, we were able to determine what is native, what's non-native, what resources we are going to plan on protecting. In regard to, I don't believe, if you have that opinion, please submit it, but I don't believe the plan is to regrade the entire park in order to be able to protect the natural environment and resources that are on site. But that being said, as was discussed, we want to make sure that we're addressing the comments, and if you have concerns about native species being planted, please let us know, especially native species. As a biologist, those are very important to me as well. So we'd love your input, and please put that in there if you're passionate about that.
All right, thank you. And if there's a request for maybe some specific types of operations at a park, is that something we might discuss at a future meeting? It sounds like Dennis is interested in having that 4 feet of grass mowed along the walkway. So is that something we try to build into the operational plan, or is it still something we include in the survey right now?
Please include that in the survey right now if that's something that you would like to be seen, and then we can address that and include that in our plan as far as when we're analyzing all of the different ideas that are presented to us. We really care about your opinion, so please include that in the survey.
Great, thank you. All right, Matthew is saying, did you say there would be some paving on the walking trail to accommodate wheelchairs or strollers? That is a great question. So Nick, do you want to talk a little bit about the park plan so far and what it would take to change the existing landscape?
Sure. Well, we received that as a question. Someone asked us tonight if there would be trail sections that would be paved to provide. Sounds like someone was concerned about having improved sort of flat access and universal access, which we fully support. We don't have a plan for a trail. We don't have a plan to move a pebble right now, but if you guys tell us that a flat, accessible trail section or entire trail anywhere in the park is an important feature to you, then we'll tell you where we think that can fit and how it could be built. I would add that there are some great have been some great changes in material use in the last couple decades here in California, and we can achieve totally flat, accessible paths that are not paved. And they're better because in some ways they allow water to percolate through. They are more supportive of a more natural park setting like this, and they provide full accessibility to people of all abilities. But we can explore all of those. So if what we hear is that someone wants a wider, more accessible path, section, or entire trail, that's absolutely something that we can explore.
Great, thank you. And I guess probably a similar question, well, semi-similar. Is it possible to add California native plants and trees? So same situation, right? Note it in the survey. And
it absolutely is. And those we like natives for a lot of reasons too. So absolutely let us know that those are your preferences, and we understand very much.
Great, thank you. All right, Butch is asking, how will these improvements be kept and how will they be paid for? So that might be a Joe question to talk about operations moving forward.
Sure, yeah. As part of any improvement project, we always try to project or anticipate additional costs that'll come with these additional improvements or changes to the existing conditions there and the amenities that are currently at the site. So definitely we will be looking at the budget and looking for opportunities to increase that maintenance budget and staffing resources as well to ensure that we can properly maintain any additions or improvements that are done at the site.
Thank you, Joe. Matthew is asking or saying that there is a sign on the south side of the park across South Lane that indicates permission is needed to enter or walk the trails. Does the park manager control these trails on the south side? If not, is there any information about who manages those trails?
That's a good question. I'm not familiar with that. I don't think that is our sign, but I'd be happy to look into it, and maybe we can post a follow-up on the webpage for this project.
All right, thank you. All right, Candy's asking or saying Supervisor Jacobs supported the rebuilding of the announcer's booth that was burned after the Cedar fire. Where are we on this improvement?
Let us know that that's important to you, Candy. Let us know. Yeah.
Great, thank you. All right, Maria is asking, are the final decisions on improvements based on survey results only? That is an excellent question. The survey is one component. Attending this meeting and asking questions is another component. And any interaction you have with any member of this team that's park related becomes part of the overall communication documentation. Nick, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're based on what we hear from you guys in the first public meeting and this meeting tonight, the emails I've received and the notes that we're taking. We're going to put all that into looking at the boundary of the park, and we're going to see what fits in there, what your priorities, based on what your priorities are. Then we will come back in June. The second public meeting, which was asked about earlier, will be in June, and we'll say, here are some things that you guys like. Here's how we propose to show them or add them to the park. Here's the ones we can fit. Here's the ones we could build sooner rather than later, and so on. And so it will be you that tells us to go back and take those ideas and form them into the final plan, which we'll show to you in August. So it comes from you, and we won't make a decision right now. We won't make any decisions until we come to you 2 more times.
All right, Dennis is asking if the plan will call for increased maintenance of the mowing. He says it's not happening right now. So we certainly can talk about that for future park maintenance. Joe,
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say it could. And it's, again, it depends. The maintenance program will depend on the nature and extent of the improvements to an extent. And then I don't mean to step in front of Joe if she had something to add too.
No, that's great, Nick. Thank you. You know, I just want to encourage everyone here or anyone in the community that if there are concerns about the existing maintenance activities there, I'm more than happy to chat with folks about that and figure out a plan moving forward to make sure we're addressing all the needs. It's one park out of 11 parks that this work group maintains. So sometimes things don't get done right away or as quickly as we'd all like for them to, but I'm always open to having those conversations. So definitely reach out if there are any concerns related to current maintenance standards.
Great, thank you. Question for my team here. Since I can't close all my windows, can one of you post the survey links in the chat? Just to make sure. We have a question from Matthew. He's asking us to do that. So
Sure.
That'd be helpful. And then maybe we could pull it back up on the screen too. Oh, there it is. I see it behind all the windows I have open right now. Thank you. All right. Joel is asking or saying Juanita Road behind the school, is that ever going to be maintenance so that cars can drive through? He says he knows it was a road when he was a kid and you could drive a car through there. So do we know who manages that piece of property?
We looked at that again with the design team. It looks to me like it might be what's called a paper street, which means it's partially or has partially improved or has a limited amount of improvements. That would probably not be contemplated as part of this park project. I expect that we're going to be sort of from the boundaries in. That could be something that could be looked at as sort of a long-range master plan for the park itself. However, again, if we were to hear from the community that their #1 priority or one of their top priorities for the initial spend that's available is that road, then we would prioritize it that way. But I don't know that punching it fully through, because you're right, it does on the east side, it gets very narrow. You can almost barely walk through it with the growth that's over there. Well, it's wide enough to walk through, but not a car, you're right. Of course. But if we hear from you guys that you have a different priority, then we'll look at that.
All right. Now let's look back at the survey. The survey is going to be live until May 27th, so we still have a little time to complete that survey. We will be posting the links in the chat shortly. And it looks like there's also a request for our email addresses to also be included with that. So I think your primary point of contact for this project is still going to be Nick, and he can send things directly to whoever is managing that specific aspect of the project. That's probably the best way to do it, but we can pull back up his email address and put that in the chat as well. All right, Barb is saying, I understand that $635,000 is allocated. Will there be a tax increase for local residents to maintain those improvements? So Nick, you want to take this one?
It's $650, and there's no plan to change any taxes. That's already allocated, so it exists and it's ready for us now.
Maria has a comment in here. She just wants to let us know that expanding the walking trail and adding more trees is important to her.
Awesome, thank you.
All right. Okay, let me make sure I've got all this done. All right, and then if you've reached out to a member of our team and you haven't received a response, please follow up. It's actually wonderful to see how busy parks have been over the past year. The pandemic has really brought out all San Diegans, and we've seen triple the visitation we typically experience. But that also means our email inboxes are incredibly full. So if you don't hear from one of us, please follow up, please call, please email again. It's helpful for us. It resurfaces your message, and it makes sure that we respond to it. All right, do we have any more questions from our attendees? Doesn't appear to see anything else. Any last words from our speakers today, from Nick or from Anna or Joe?
Yeah, I will. If anyone has, does anyone have any before I do?
And we did get just one more question, but go ahead and we can start with you.
Well, I just want to thank Linda and everybody at the Crest Community Association for hosting us tonight, for asking for this follow-up. It's a great opportunity for us to continue our outreach. We know that you are very interested in your community and in this park, and that's great for us. We love working with invested people. So Linda, thanks so much for reaching out to me, and Candy, thank you for your emails, and I'll follow up with you, Candy, both about the site and your other questions. But thank you for being a great community and for helping us do the right things out here. We're excited to be here.
And I just wanted to say thank you for all the comments, the environmental comments, especially with the native trees and native plants. I really appreciate that. And please put those in their comments if those are important to you. And thank you for your time.
All right, and we do have a real quick question here from Marge. Marge, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Can trees be put back in to help with the gopher problem and otherwise leave the park as is? Definitely an option. So same thing, put that in the survey. If we see a lot of interest in adding trees and dealing with gophers or leaving the park as is and not creating any updates, you know, this is your community park. These improvements are for you. So you get to decide which direction they move. All right. Anybody else on our team have any final thoughts?
I would add, but we're just about right. We're just a touch over the 30 minutes that Linda offered us, so I think we're just about on target. I do want to add, we've already gotten a great response to the survey. It's been very strong, especially for the amount of flyers that we sent out, some of which we know reached people late, but it's been a strong response, which is great news again for the park. So that's awesome. Please keep it up. Let people know. The more we receive, the better it is.
And I just added Nick's email address to the chat. And if you wait one more second here, I can pull the surveys. Anybody else have comments?
I'd like just to echo what Nick said. You know, we thank you for your time and your feedback, and we do take it very seriously and use it to really guide this process. So we're excited to see what you all have to say. If there are current conditions that you'd like to chat about or have concerns about, we are here to listen to those as well. Feel free to reach out to Nick, and he can forward those on to me, and I can reach out and touch base with those individuals and get things going on those matters as well. So we don't have to wait for the project to be done to maybe address some of these concerns that you may have now. So we always seek continual improvement, and it is a process for us to, you know, reach that excellence level. So please reach out to us whenever there's a concern, and we're happy to work with you on those.
Thanks, Joe. We have a comment here from Barb. Just wanted to reiterate that the special ecosystem here has to be protected. I know Anna's really happy to hear that. Same with Crystal from our resource management team. Not just the plants, but the birds, the frogs, the coyotes, hawks, owls. It's a symphony at night, so close to the village, and so many more creatures. We certainly agree. I think every day there's a careful balance between recreation opportunity and efforts to protect our land and local environment. And so Making sure that our plants and our animals are happy is definitely a main part of our mission. Okay, I think that is it, unless there's any final comments. In the chat, I added Nick's email address, and I also put the links to the survey, both English and Spanish, so feel free to click on those and take those surveys. Again, you have until May 27th to complete it, and next time we come back to you, we will have survey results to share. All right, any final comments, Nick, or are we good?
Nope, just thank you to the association. Thanks to the community. Thanks so much for having us, and we'll see you soon. And call or email if you have any more questions.
Great, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Take care.
Bye.